Welcome everyone to the May 18th, 2022 Finance Committee meeting. It is about 6:30 p.m. Roll call, Mr. Hennessy.
All right. Mrs. Cooper.
Here.
Mr. Martin.
Here.
Mr. Browning.
Here.
Mr. Neff.
Here.
Mr. Gross.
Yes, here.
Mr. Capel.
Here.
And Mayor St. John is absent. All right, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's go to the minutes from our last meeting in April the 20th, 2022. Anyone with a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Martin.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rumney. Any discussion? Mr. Hennessy. Go
Mr.
ahead.
Martin.
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
Mr. Browning.
Yes.
Mr. Neff.
Yes.
Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Mr. Capel.
Yes.
Minutes approved from April 20th, 2022. Okay, let's go to the first item on our agenda. It's the 2022 street program. We have the bid update and the financial planning piece of that. If you turn to page 9 of your packet, looks like this. There you go. Yep. So this is what we're talking about here. We have first line there, Columbus Asphalt Paving has bid $373,000 for the streets. This involves Kintner Parkway. I think it's a mill and fill, and Mr. Hall, this is up to the cul-de-sac as I understand it, correct?
Correct.
That's item number 1. And secondarily, South Columbus Street from Barleycorn up the hill, close to the city limit. Wes?
It's down a little bit further. And then the other section is just brick repair on Granville. So those are the 3 pieces in the streets. And then the cemetery was the alternative.
Right. And the cemetery piece there, $25,712 from Columbus Asphalt Paving was the low bid. We also had them in there at the $373,000 figure. That's a total of right there around, $400,000, which I believe is what we had budgeted. $400,000, and part of the Drugan Fund, as I understand it, Mr. Hennessy, we have $40,000 budgeted there. This part of, as part of the cemetery fund. So we're gonna use that amount to take care of the $25,000 expense from Columbus Asphalt, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Is the whole cemetery being repaved, or is this just converting the gravel portions to blacktop, or what's the deal?
There's just a few streets there in the north part of the cemetery, which are being resurfaced.
Okay.
So it's not the gravel streets, it's just some resurfacing of the existing roadways on the north side.
Okay.
And the budgeted amount was $400,000, and I may have already mentioned that. So we're right there, especially after we use the Drugan funds, which I think is on budget. We've collected some 20,000 or so.
Yeah, so
This
far
year,
to
so-
date, that's right. So for purposes of this group, we're just showing you the financial implications because, the street committee or the services committee worked through identified the streets and did the RFP process. So later in the council meeting, you'll be asked to vote on approval of this. And we just want to, again, assure you that on both fronts, both the Part A, the basic streets, and the cemetery, that we've budgeted funds and we have the monies available. And I think the great news is that I think the engineer's estimate was $410K, something like that. So the bid is in under that, which is good work.
And Columbus Asphalt is who we've had dealings with in the past for similar.
They did last year too, I believe, didn't they?
Last couple, right? Or
Are they gonna buy some better material for the crosswalks?
We're gonna use paint for pavement markings
Thank you.
instead of the thermoplastic.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Just a quick note, we are very pleased with the bids received, just considering the bidding environment right now. To receive 3 local bidders and what we consider a good pricing considering our estimates, so. Good bids.
And assuming we, later on in our council meeting, if we pass that via an emergency measure, it can get bid out, and how quickly can they do the repairs?
Well, the completion date is August 12th, about a week before the teachers start. And then the following week, the students start. So we'll execute a contract and move forward, but the completion date in the contract was August 12th.
And I think we're just about done with repaving all of the cemetery that's currently paved between the last couple years. So next year, we may be able to move on to one of the gravel ones.
Excellent. Anything further there?
Do they use our police department for traffic control when they're doing paving and stuff, or do they have their own flaggers and stuff that they use?
They'll have their own, but if there's a situation that comes up and they need assistance, that can be provided.
Okay.
There'll be a cost to that, but I mean, South Columbus will probably be the busiest street.
Oh, yeah.
Kettner shouldn't be too much of a maintenance or traffic situation, so should be okay.
And there's no, regarding Kentner, we're not adding a lane or doing anything like that at this point in time. This is just what is there is being milled and filled.
Correct.
Okay. Very good. Anything further, anyone? Okay, let's go to our next item on the agenda. We have the Legal Services Frost Brown Todd engagement letter. So I think you all are familiar with DRK project, Ravines at Meadow Ridge on the other side of 71 there off 3Bs and K. So they brought to our attention a possible constitutional issue with their tree preservation program ordinance. And so we are engaging or want to engage this law firm, actually Attorney Aaron Brogdon and this law firm Frost Brown Todd, to research and review that for us on our behalf and see what the next step is and what we need to do with that.
Which constitution are we talking about?
Actually, U.S. Constitution, they pointed out, and I have this here, I believe it's the 6th District Court of Appeals up in Michigan. Yeah, for the record. They pointed to, it's called FPDEV LLC versus Charter Township of Canton. And this came down from the United States Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. And it said that they're alleging that they had a tree preservation ordinance similar to one that we have in our charter. And that particular court believes there's some unconstitutional language in it. And so we now have to research that. We have to do our due diligence and pursue that. Daryl and Steve, I think, have some more color for that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so again, the reason we brought this to the Finance Committee is because it'll have a financial implication. It's not something that was in the budget. And at the moment, this engagement letter caps the expenditure of $10,000, and it's directly related, as the chairman said, to the tree preservation issue. Having said that, I think when David Breen comes for the council meeting, he may talk just about a slight revision to the scope of this. So we'll talk a smidge more about that. But like I said, because it wasn't budgeted, at some point we will have to make a budget appropriation. And so we want to make sure that you're at least aware of the fact that it's the desire to engage. There's a need to engage Frost Brown for the constitutional issue. And there's no certainty that the maximum amount will be 10,000. So you just want to, again, prepare you a little bit for that. So
Daryl or Steve, can I ask for some clarification? I apologize. So this is for the new developments going off of 71 behind the Wendy's and McDonald are out there on the other side of 71 on the, okay. And so the issue is regarding trees and what's allowed and to stay, not stay, those types of things. But what's the argument, I guess? What's the fundamental disagreement? I don't know.
They brought to our attention that this case had been decided recently and felt that there may be implications to our local policy. And so
They feel they
Yeah,
have more rights to do what they need to with the trees and what they may or may not have, depending on what's found in the.
Yes. So again, I'm not a lawyer, so, but the courts have indicated that, that apparently you have to do an individual analysis. You can't just have a blanket policy as it relates to a tree replacement policy.
Okay.
And, because, you know, the noise, the erosion control, the environmental benefits of that, you need to assess the direct environmental impact for that part, for that development, and then apply some, you know, cost or consideration or what have you.
Yeah.
And the city didn't do that, right? We have a general policy. We've applied the general policy. And again, they're pushing back because the courts have said, again, more of a direct analysis needs to be done. So,
Thank you for that. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, the courts basically is in their ruling, they feel like a more overarching, more detailed approach to your tree preservation code is needed, potentially on a, case by case basis, and environmental impact should be looked at. But it's all in there that they put that case in front of us. And so, we do have a tree plan that we tentatively worked out with them initially. And so as part of the development agreement. So now that they've brought this up to our attention, so we have to address it.
Okay.
So does this open the door for people who've been held accountable for certain tree replacements in the past to come and ask for some of their money back?
I don't think.
Fair question.
I don't think they can do it retroactively. That may be a more relevant question to ask your law director.
All right.
And we'll have a more detailed discussion, presumably this is on our agenda near the end as part of new business. Mr. Breen will fill us in. But like Mr. Hennessy said, we just want to bring it to the finance committee attention because of the cost. Primarily, it's going to be probably at least $10,000. So we'll see where that goes. Anything further? Okay. All right, let's move on to, let's see, we have ordinance number 2022-01, first amended pending. This is a heads up for us. We spoke with Mr. Piles and Mr. Hennessy earlier. Sunbury Parkway District Plan proposals. We have our RFP out there. We also have Letts Avenue repairs that the service committee is looking at, and some additional legal services. These are all going to affect our budget. I think I'll let Mr. Hennessy and Mr. Piles detail you on that.
Yeah, so the legal services is the one we just talked about. And we'll check on our current expenditures just to make sure that, we've captured kind of the baseline expenses as well. And if there's something that we expect beyond that, we'll try to account for that in the next or at the next finance committee meeting. Working our way up, then Letts Avenue. Again, the services committee has talked a lot about the repairs to that. We are starting to get some numbers in terms of what it's going to cost to repair that the pipe. It's the finance director's view that she thinks there's adequate cash flow to at least make the emergency repairs. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we've got the appropriation in place as well. So while she can do it within the existing budget and within the existing cash, we want to make sure that the budget accurately reflects all the expenses. So we'll be back on that again with a firmer number. Firmer financial number. And again, the services committee will probably talk a little bit more about the strategy or the plan. And then, as the chairman indicated, so Sunbury Parkway, we anticipate this is probably the biggest of the three items when it comes to a budget amendment. The RFP is out on the street now. It's been out for about a week now, and we, I think, have June 10th as the due date. So the next time the finance committee meets, we'll have some preliminary numbers, and we'll at least be able to kind of plug a number into our budget for that. So as the chairman indicated, just want to give you a heads up. These are the three that we're working on. I'm not saying these will be the only three that we ultimately bring back to the finance committee, but they're the ones that, again, are on the radar at the moment. So.
Thank you, sir. Okay, everything else here is the normal reporting of our figures. Overall, we had 1.6 million collected in revenue thus far and 1.4 million spent. Things are strong, according to Mr. Hennessy and Mr. Piles. You see the general fund numbers there. 335,000 of COVID money was through the American Rescue Plan Act. That's why you see that if you go to the middle there where it says general fund year-to-date revenue in 2021 was 1.842, and in 2022 decreased to so far 1.6. That's an 11% decrease compared with last year. Year-to-date, however, as mentioned, 335,000 of that 1.8 was from the ARPA. So if you take that out, and the park fund as well, I believe that the transfer amount there, then we are still on budget or doing a little bit better than budget, aren't we, Mr. Hennessy?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we just wanted to summarize that. I mean, if you read the, as you read this, it might suggest that maybe our finances don't look so strong. And that's what the chairman, I think, is just trying to explain to you. So again, the one-time transfer for capital and the parks has taken a big hit, or it has significantly impacted the expenses. But again, when you balance them out, take that out, our expenditures for the first third of the year are about 23% of budgeted amounts. So we're well within the kind of the path, the spending path that we would have anticipated when we put the budget in place. So that's good news. And again, while the revenues seem to suggest there's a reduction, the reduction is wholly attributed to the ARPA money not having been received this year and accounted for. Not to say that we won't get it. We anticipate we will get it. So pulling out just a couple of numbers on the revenue side, I know the mayor has mentioned this before, and I thought it might be important to note. Income tax collection, that represents just a little over 70% of the total budget for the city, or revenue for the city on the general fund side. Our collections to date are up just a little bit short of 3% year over year. So moving in the right direction as it relates to income tax collection. And then I know we've also talked a little bit about building permits in the past. That number is up 74% from last year's totals. Steve probably, well, actually, and Wes probably more than anyone else can attribute to or attest to the fact that there's a lot of work associated with that. But again, that's a strong indication of what's happening on the building side here in the city. So those two numbers are very strong, and just want to kind of note that. Yeah. And other than that, I mean, the rest of the detail you can look at, but I think it's safe to say our revenues are tracking on schedule, and our spending is a little bit below the budgeted pace. So those are the two things you'd want. Yeah.
Very good, thank you. And just for the record, I'm reading off the bank reconciliation at the bottom. We have a bank balance of $16,547,149. Star Ohio has 7.1 million, Fifth Third 7.8 million, and First Commonwealth at 1.5 roughly. Any other questions? Anyone? Anything else you all would like to add, Mr. Piles, Mr. Hennessy? I don't have anything else on tonight's agenda.
I think that's what we wanted to cover. So
Would it be appropriate to make a motion to adjourn?
That would be appropriate.
I'll make that motion.
oh, wait a minute.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Martin.
Second.
Is that Mr. Capel?
Yes.
Second by Mr. Capel. Any further discussion? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hennessy.
All right, Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Capel,
Yes.
Mr. Gose,
Yes.
Mr. Neff, Mr. Grumney,
Yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Yes.
6 ayes. Motion approved.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Well, there's your answer. I never would have guessed constitutional crisis.